Hello and welcome back to the podcast, episode number 86. And in today's episode, we're going to be speaking about the process of actually getting a job as an analyst within a Premier League football club. So the content for this video comes from a mixture of ideas from myself, but also I've pulled from conversations that I have had in previous podcast episodes and chats with current analysts that have actually been part of the hiring process from both sides. So obviously they've been the person getting interviewed and they've actually been successful and got the role, but then when they're in that position and they're in the job, then have been part of the hiring process. They've sat on the other side of the table, they've asked the questions, they've gone through the CVs, and they've made a decision then on whether, which person to basically bring into the department. So in the kind of conversation today, we're going to look at kind of the hiring process. We're going to look at why personality, communication, attitude are often deciding factors when it comes to choosing who it is, especially, the number of analysts that are applying. The chances are there's a lot of people that are good enough technically to do the job, but it's, goes down to the person being a correct fit for the department. And then also we'll touch a little bit on how a portfolio can kind of give a sense of your kind of style, your working style, your personality before they've even seen you. So you can gain a lot from a portfolio of work, I would say. So before we get into all of that good stuff, and again, we'll go over some jobs at the end as well, like usual. Quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And if you are watching or listening on Spotify, you can hit the follow button on there. And as always, if you have a question or a suggestion for any pieces of content, you can leave a comment down below this particular episode. And as always, there's links down below there for things like, which is relevant to this one actually, a free CV template, so you can check that out if you're looking to freshen up your CV, and there's some other bits and pieces to help support the channel, all linked down below. So what we're going to start with is I'm going to pull a few bits and pieces from my conversation with Jamie Osmond. So Jamie is a very experienced analyst and he's been part of the hiring process many times. So I believe he was at West Ham for over 10 years, I think. It was definitely over 10 years. And then he's also spent time with Ipswich Town as well when they were in the Premier League. So Jamie's got loads of experience and he's now kind of got his own business in terms of a consultancy. So he's part of the hiring process even now as well. So he sees what makes a good department, and he's been through this many times in his career, so he's hired many analysts. So it was good to get his perspective in terms of the types of things he thinks about when he's bringing someone else into the department. So one thing that stuck out to me firstly was the numbers. So I think we're all kind of aware that jobs in football are quite popular. If you see a job as a first team analyst or as an analyst assistant at a Premier League club, the chances are it's going to get hundreds of applications. So what we can do, if we know that, or if we have an estimation of how many people are going to be interested, we can kind of work back and kind of look at your percentage chance of basically making it to the next stage and being successful. So if we base it off, let's say 200 applications. So let's say a job goes live, 200 people apply, the job closes. So then Jamie, in this case, would have 200 CVs to basically look at, whittle down, and basically move so many through to the next stage. So he's obviously not going to want to interview 200 people. That's going to be far too much of a burden on him, and some of them won't be good enough. Some won't be as experienced enough. Some won't be what they're looking for. So the first stage will be to basically have a quick look over the CV and get that number of 200, or it might be 300. It can be more than that. Get that down to a manageable amount to then move to the next stage. So this is where your CV comes in. Sometimes you might only have as a hirer a couple of minutes to look through a CV. So if it doesn't catch your eye, if there's common mistakes on there in terms of like it's a copy and pasted CV, it's not bespoke to the job, it's got simple errors and mistakes, spelling mistakes and stuff like that in there, it's not going to put you in good stead. So this is, to me, it's the easiest thing to get right. Like, you can literally master your CV, make sure it is perfect, there's no spelling mistakes, there's no errors, it's set up in a way that it's easily read, easily digestible, but also it looks, it's appealing on the eye. So then when someone has a big list of CVs, yours will stand out basically. So that's just a quick win. So I think from the 200 applications, if you say, okay, they're going to then say maybe, probably not even 20, I was going to say 20, but it might be between 10 and 20 would get selected to do a task, because obviously they're not going to ask 100 people to do the task, because they're probably not going to have the manpower to be able to look through those particular tasks. It's going to be a lot of work for them. So let's be generous and say 20 people do the task, which personally I think it'll probably be less than that. But if it's 20, that is 10%. So 10% of people that apply will get moved to the next stage, in which they will then have to demonstrate their skills via some form of analysis task. So this could be, sometimes you're sent a video and you might be given a task or a topic to, maybe do like a bespoke presentation, or you're given a scenario in which you've got to analyze a certain formation or a certain player. So let's say 10%, again, we're being generous there. So again, going back to the conversation with Jamie, so Jamie did say that he would be the one that would kind of skim over all the CVs. And I think he said he would owe it to, if he's going to be bringing someone into the department and they're going to be spending a hell of a lot of time together. We've spoke about on this channel before in terms of the workload and the amount of time you spend with your other analysts. It's a lot. So you've got to get along with that person. And so, just to spend a few minutes each is not that much to ask, really. So look over the CV and make sure you're basically taking that in. So that's where he is looking for: attention to detail, relevance. So can you demonstrate the skills, that they're looking for? Do you have them? And then also, you've got things like references on there as well. So going to the task stage. So this kind of would typically be given with a deadline. So this is where there's a bit of a balance, because I think when people are hiring, so again, just going back to Jamie, if he's hiring a new analyst, the chances are that someone that is applying might be applying and they're already in another role, so they've got a lot on with their current job. So rather than just say, you've got to do this and send it within a couple of hours, you would typically get a couple of days. But again, it's still going to be a deadline that you have to stick to. And it will also be relevant to see, who sends the task in at what time. Like, did you literally wait till the last minute to send it in, or did you send it in nice and early? So all of those things are relevant. So you typically be sent like a download link for a video and basically be given a task to do. So, and this is where you can kind of express yourself and kind of get your message across, and basically showcase your skills when it comes to the analysis. So we've gone from 200 generously down to 20, and then let's say that all of those 20 tasks have come in. There might then be, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10. Again, probably being generous is 10, but let's say they want to interview, let's be generous, let's say 10. So we've gone from 200 to 20. So 10% have made it to the task. And then of that 20, only 50, but probably less than 50% of that 20 have made it to interview stage. And that's obviously the next, you're in the final 10 there, final 5 to 10 people. So you've got a good chance here. So if you're in one of them, you've got a 10% chance of getting that role. So this is where more than your technical skills come into play, I would say. So one thing I did find very interesting from Jamie's conversation was he described the sort of matrix system that he has when hiring new analysts into the department. So after the interview that they have, so they might also set another task in that interview, which we're going to come on to later in terms of the experience that Tom Green had when he joined Man United. So there was a task in there, and that was a really interesting one. So there might be a task in the interview, but obviously in the interview, the people that are sat on the other side of the table, they are wanting to find out about how you are as a person. So what's your personality like? Basically, are you going to be a good fit to basically bring into the department? So the matrix that I spoke about there that Jamie did mention was something that he and his other analysts within that department, so the people that you're going to be working with, they basically go through and score you out of 10 on different aspects of you as an analyst, basically. So number one would be you're fit for the role. So do you have the technical ability needed? So do you have the ability to, do you have the tactical knowledge, let's say? Do you have the experience using the different softwares that the club uses? And the chances are, if you've made it to this stage, you probably, all of the people that get to the interview stage are probably good at, they're probably good analysts. So that's why I think, like I said at the start of this video, was the importance of your personality and how you'll fit into the department is a major factor as well. Because let's say, they interview 8 people, all 8 of them on paper are good enough to do the role. They're good enough to be the analyst to go in, but are they going to be the right person to go in? So that's where it's important. So number one thing they would score is the fit for the role. So like I say, do they have the technical skills and ability needed to be a first team analyst at West Ham United or whatever club it is? Number 2 would be the fit for the department. So will they complement existing people within that team? So let's say they have a department of 5 analysts. You're going in, but your skills are very similar to everybody else. You're not bringing anything new, let's say. But on the flip side of that, you might be highly skilled in using, I don't know, Tableau and Python, let's say, and the existing analysts maybe aren't experts on that. So you going in, you would score high on that matrix. So that's when it goes back to having a broad selection of skills, but then also you can kind of basically become a master in certain things as well. And if you can be indispensable to a club and you can say, look, I can bring this skill which your department currently isn't the greatest in, and I can come in and strengthen that, then you're going to score highly on that part of the matrix. So we've got fit for the role, fit for the department, but then we've also got fit for the manager. So again, you're going to be working with a team of analysts, but you've got to get on with everybody else within. And I say manager, I also mean the rest of the coaching staff, I would say. So you're going to be spending time with these people. So yeah, you've obviously got to get along with them and be a nice fit into the whole team, because it's like when you sign a football player. When you sign an actual player, you're going to do background checks on that person. Are they a disruptive person? Do they get along with certain people? Do they show good teamwork and kind of working together with other people? It's the same for the analysts. You're bringing someone into a team and you want that person to basically seamlessly come in and be able to hit the ground running and not cause any frictions or distractions. Because again, there's lots of work to do once you've got the job. So you need to make sure that's a smooth transition. So that's number 3. Number 4 would be your personality and communication. So are you approachable? Are you trustworthy? Are you adaptable? Again, we spoke a lot about this actually in the episode that's not out yet, but will be soon, hopefully, with Josh at Brentford, in terms of the camaraderie between different analysts. So this is very important. So, I think back to my time at Brighton, where we had a room for all the analysts, and it was so good to be a part of that. We worked hard, we worked very long hours, but we spent a lot of time together and we had a great time as a team of analysts. So yeah, I think they're all very similar to the last point in terms of fit with the manager and the coaches. Your personality is obviously going to factor into that as well. So number 5 is your analytical skills. So how actually good are you with the things that matter when it comes to whether it's crunching data, whether it's knowing everything you need to know about the tactics side of things. So again, similar to point number 1 in terms of the fit for the role, in terms of the technical ability, but this is a bit more kind of specific in terms of the actual skills that department is looking for. And then number 6 would be professionalism under pressure. So things like your reliability, your punctuality, your work ethic. So each one of those things is scored. So if you imagine you're given a score out of 10 for, okay, how well would you fit in the department? Let's say that's an 8. Do you have the analytical skills? That's a 6. Would you be a good fit for the manager? That's a 7. And all those scores would be added up, and basically you would then you would have a score for each of the candidates that have been interviewed based on all of these different things, and then you can see then who basically adds up to be the best fit for the department. And you can see it's kind of split. Those 6 points are almost half and half between how good of an analyst are you, between how good of a person you are in terms of your personality. So it's even split there in terms of, it's not just about your skills. Like I say, you could be the greatest analyst of all time, but if you're not very good if you don't work well with other people, you can't communicate well, you don't fit into the team well, it's not going to work basically, so you're not going to be successful. So going back to the numbers again, we have 200 to start with, 10% of them get given a task, probably 40 to 50% of them get an interview, and then obviously only one of them is gonna basically get the job. So from 1 in 200 applications, well, you got 0.5% chance of getting that particular job. So just always good to work back. But like I said, the first step is the easiest step to pass is your CV. And like I say, you can get a free CV template linked down below this video and all videos basically. So just a few quotes from the conversation I had with Jamie is attention to detail is everything as an analyst. And I need to understand this person as much as possible because basically I'll see them more than my family. And it sounds quite dramatic, but it definitely is. Like if you're working 60 to 70 hours and you're traveling, you're staying in hotels with these people, you've got to get on with them. It's quite obvious that you wouldn't want to spend that much time with a person if you don't get along with them very well. So what we'll do now is we'll expand on the personality and the culture fit. So this is also pulling from conversation with Jamie, but also with Josh at Brentford as well. So if you don't know Josh, he is the head of analysis at Brentford Football Club. He's also spent time at Sheffield United, so he's worked in the Premier League for a number of years. And again, if you know around football and football analysis, you'll know that Brentford is known for having a strong, clever and smart department. They do things right when it comes to analysis. So it's good again to hear from Josh being the person that heads up that department. So I'll start with a few kind of quotes from Josh, which I think is really useful. So being around people and being good to be around, that is massive. So that's what he said. And as we've spoke about, football isn't a 9-to-5 job. It's long hours, travel, high pressure. So if you're difficult to work with, it affects the whole environment. So, he kind of said, because we spoke about his time at Sheffield United as well. When Sheffield United got promoted, they had a great season for a promoted team. I think they finished 9th, which obviously as a promoted team is a great season. And I asked him kind of what he thought went towards that successful season, and basically just describe the actual team, and not just the team of analysts, the team, the analysts, the strength conditions, the coaches, the manager, everyone just fit together perfectly, and obviously the players as well. And he did actually mention if someone isn't working out, or if there's a little bit of a rift between staff or things like that, that can get picked on from other people and also the players and have a detrimental effect on the whole kind of team environment, basically. So let me just look at my notes here. So I'm going down. Okay, so the next point I wanted to mention was around your reputation as an analyst and how you are perceived from other analysts within the industry. So this goes all the way back from all the way to when you first start out. So if you're at university, let's say, and you're going for a unpaid internship at a club local to your university, the chances are that the club or someone within the club will have a link to the uni to be able to speak to your lecturer, so they can see kind of what kind of person you are, how serious you are in your early career stages, like are you wanted to become an analyst, are you showing willingness to do certain things. So it starts there, but then also the time you spend in that club as an intern, you might think, okay, this is just an internship, I'm only here for a 6-week placement, and then I'm going to be gone, I'm going to be going on to bigger and better things, I want to work in the Premier League, etc. I think that is definitely the wrong way to look at it, because the person that you intern with is probably more than likely going to still be in the industry when you're going for these jobs. So let's say after your internship, you've done 6 weeks there and you just basically coasted along just to tick a box at uni. But then when you graduate, you go for a job. When you apply for that job, you're going to go through the process I spoke about with Jamie, but then the person that's hiring might think, okay, you've done an internship at this club, I know the person that you interned under, or I know someone that was at the club when you interned, so I can call them up and ask them what kind of person this person is. Are they a hard worker? Are they good to be around? So I think I have said it before on this channel in terms of everybody does know everyone. It does feel like that, and it can at certain times be cliquey. But I think people do hire people that they enjoy to work with, and they know that they're a trustworthy person and they're going to be a reliable analyst. And if they've worked with them before, they know someone that they trust that's worked with them before, they will take that as a definite big tick, and you'll be bumped up the line in terms of are you going to be chosen for the next position, basically. So all that to say is every single position, no matter how small or insignificant you might think it is, it's probably going to have an effect somewhere later in your career. So that 6-week internship unpaid is still very important if you want to go on to have a good long career within professional football and within analysis. So one thing that you can do as well to kind of showcase your personality is that would actually be around your portfolio. So again, something we've spoken about before in terms of creating a portfolio of work. Lots of people that I've had on the podcast have got jobs within football clubs because they started out with posting things on Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff. Now, it doesn't have to be that you have to be someone that regularly posts. As long as you have you might have something that you just share to, you link it on your CV or you share it online every now and again. But if you've got something where you can showcase your work, your work can say a lot about you as an analyst. So it's not just kind of a collection of reports, it's kind of a window into how you think and how you communicate as well. So when people are looking over, let's say, your portfolio of work, they will look at things like, yes, they'll look at the content, is it good analysis? But then they'll also look at your attention to detail, how you're laying out things, the structure of a report, let's say, that kind of links down to your organization and your precision, should I say. So there's things to kind of pick from that other than just your technical ability when it comes to analysis. So your attention to detail, your structure, your clarity, the language that you're using. If it's a video, how you speak, how you kind of handle yourself, and how you portray your message. Again, going back to communication skills, basically. And then the choice of topics and kind of your tone and how you are delivering your message effectively, and kind of the things that you're showing an interest in, because that might be also relevant to the club that you're looking to get a job at, basically. So yeah, I think having a portfolio of work that you can showcase, you can send out to the hiring person, basically is a bit of a preview, should I say, of they can almost see a little bit about you, they can learn a bit more about your style before they actually meet you. So then when you then go into the interview, let's say you've made it to the interview stage, they know a little bit about you, but then you've also got something to talk about as well. They've seen your work and you can kind of discuss that at the interview stage as well. So yeah, key takeaway here is your portfolio can build trust before your interview, showing that you are kind of thoughtful, reliable and detail driven when it comes to being an analyst. Okay, so what we'll move on to next is the part of the conversation around Tom Green's experience with Man United. So again, you can check out the full video with Tom, really interesting. He was at Man U for 7 years, but I wanted to speak about two things really. So the actual interview process that Tom had when he got the job, but also the bit before that. So I did ask Tom how the job came about basically. Was it as simple as how he described Jamie at the start of this podcast episode, where he just applied, went through the process? It was a little bit different to that in the fact that he actually applied for a job at Man United 1 or 2 years before basically, and was unsuccessful. So his CV was in the system, the analyst team was aware of him. It wasn't successful back then, but when a new job came up, whether it was 1 or 2 years, I can't actually remember, later, he was then basically, he must have come close the first time, because then he was thought of again the second time. So he then got a call from an analyst at Man United. They had a chat, which I think he describes as a kind of 40-minute chat around football, around kind of philosophies and different kind of workflows and stuff like that. And again, all of that conversation, you've got to think about it, that's almost like a pre-interview where the current Man United analyst is basically getting a feel for what Tom is currently like. Is he going to be a good fit? Does his kind of philosophies match ours? If we brought him in, would he be able to kind of hit the ground running and be a good part of this team? So that was kind of stage one. It was that call. And then he described the kind of interview process in terms of getting set a task. So his task was actually in the interview itself. So he was given, again, no preparation, which kind of goes back to kind of puts you in the setting of an analyst, where you might be tasked to do certain things quickly with little to no notice, basically. So in that interview process, so he's got the other analyst, he's got someone from HR and all of that sort of stuff. There's a couple of people in there. He's then basically given some footage and said, right, you've got 15 minutes to do this task. And basically while they're watching him do it. So they're seeing how he handles himself under pressure, what he does in that time. So he's only got 15 minutes to do something. So he's probably got lots of ideas. He's got to whittle them down and give something that's going to have a lot of impact. So he's got that 15 minutes to showcase how it works quickly, efficiently, and under pressure, basically. So probably a very nerve-wracking thing, especially in the interview setting when you're probably already nervous, especially at a club at Man United as well. So very kind of interesting to see how they do it. And he said himself that he's then taken that kind of scenario and used it himself when he's on the other side of the table, so when he's hiring. So he thought it was a good way to kind of really see how someone gets on with the task. So just it kind of will demonstrate your calmness, how you react in that kind of situation, how quick you are, how much of a logical thinker you are, and then the ability to communicate your message clearly and confidently under that kind of pressure and time constraint, basically. And then one thing Tom did actually say was they basically, because they were there in the room with him, they're watching your process, not just the result. So, the task we described firstly, where you might maybe given a few days to do it, that could have literally taken you might have spent the full 2 or 3 days perfecting it, which is great. You're kind of showcasing your skills, but in the real world, you're probably not going to be given that time. So the fact that they are watching how you do what you do in that short amount of time, that is also a good judge of the type of analyst that you are as well. Okay, so let's just go over a few little takeaways from what we spoke about so far. So by the time you're in the room of the actual interview, the chances are that everyone has the technical skills, in my opinion. Everyone can probably do the job. It's just about how much of a fit you're going to be in terms of your detail, your composure, your attitude, and then your overall personality to basically fit into the existing analysis team. I think the matrix, so where Jamie went through and kind of scored you on different things, I think it proves that clubs do measure the fit as much as the skill. That's why I'm repeating myself. That's why it's very important. We had Josh reminding us that football is built on relationships and reputation. Tom's experience shows how pressure reveals personality. And then your portfolio of work, as I mentioned, it kind of gives the other side of the table a kind of sneak preview into you, so they can see and learn a little bit about you before they've actually met you, basically. So I think key advice would be to at least get the easy things done. So get a top CV, make sure that's a big tick. That's the first thing. Be reliable, be easy to work with, be calm under pressure, and remember that every single role that you have is going to have an impact on your future kind of roles within your career. So even if it is that first internship at the university. Okay, so that's everything on the topic of getting a job in football. So what's next now is I want to go over some current jobs that are listed right now in the football analysis and scouting sector. I also want to just a quick reminder again, I'll probably remind each time in terms of the jobs in analysis webinar for the APFA. So I don't have a link yet, but when that is kind of at the link stage, I'll include that below. But we are kind of pulling together some really good guests, so it's starting to kind of come together a bit now. So it's going to be in January. It's the 8th of January, I believe. But when the official kind of announcement goes out, it will be confirmed. It's going to be, as usual, an online webinar. It's going to be basically over a full day. We're going to get loads of guests in, Q&As, discussions, and all that good stuff. So I've got the first couple of guests basically confirmed now, so it's coming together nicely. So that is going to be in January, so keep an eye out for that. I would also typically now show you a preview of next week's episode. I'm not going to do that this week because I haven't got one ready, and I don't know which one it's going to be. So I've got two that it's going to be, it can be, but I don't know which one it's going to be. So I can't show you a preview right now, so you'll have to wait until next week for that. It's either going to be Premier League analyst or it's going to be a head of scouting, basically. So one of them two is going to be out next week, which will be episode 87, I believe. So we are getting closer to 100. So what we'll do now is we'll go over some jobs. So again, as usual, I'm on the APFA website, which is, again, as you heard me just say there, the APFA webinar. It's all done by the APFA. So I'm on their website, and I'm also on ASBA website to go over some jobs. So I'm going to go over the ones that have been posted in the last week or so, because obviously I don't want to repeat myself from the last episode we did. So we have got a head of performance analysis at New York City FC. So that sounds like a very good job for somebody. Head of performance analysis. You can click on that and see. Yeah, that looks like a really cool job. So we've got that one obviously in New York. So for anyone that is either in the States or looking to move over to the States, we've got a senior performance analyst under 21s with Aston Villa. We've got an individual development coach analyst at Southampton. And then if I go over to ASBA, let me scroll down so I get to the right kind of cut off to where we spoke from last time. So I can't remember. I might actually miss some out here, but I've got senior. Yeah, that's the Villa one I've just mentioned, the New York one. We've got some force hybrid scout positions at Newcastle. We've got an analyst internship at New Zealand Hockey, a computer scientist at Adelaide Football Club, data entry statisticians for Wimbledon 2026. Quite cool. Computer scientist at Adelaide, have I just said that? Yeah, that's listed twice for some reason. We've got a football data scientist at Rangers, a junior data analyst at Celtic, Academy Sports Science data analyst at Stoke City, football data scientist at Club Brugge, first team assistant performance analyst at Bristol City, head of player recruitment at Newcastle Red Bull. Interesting. And then data analytics and visualization specialist at High Performance Sport New Zealand, and then two positional analysts at Newcastle United. Let's see, I'll click on that one. We've not clicked on one yet, so let's see what this is all about. So that's part of the Academy recruitment team, helping us find and profile young players who will fit the Newcastle United way, working closely with Academy technical scout and lead UK and European scout. You use latest tools and your own expertise to analyse potential recruits. And then we've got the usual kind of what they're looking for, etc. But yeah, that is a couple of roles going at Newcastle there. So those are, again, all those ones I read out, probably read out more than 10 there. They've all been listed in the last week or so. And again, you can check them out. You can go to the ASPA or the APFA website and you can check them out to see more details on how to apply, etc. Like I said, I don't have a preview for the next one. So that is basically it for this week's episode. So thanks again for watching. I hope you have a good day and I'll see you again next week.